Hello, everyone. We are ready to go. We've
Welcome to
got three people here, as you can see, two pastors and one apologist. So, this is kind of a quiz too. If you do watch, you already probably know the answer. But which one of us is the apologist?
I think the name's a giveaway, Tim.
I guess you don't even have to watch the show since it's
Yeah, my
literally
name's
on
a
the screen
giveaway.
there. Hey, not everybody notices.
Yeah, this is for all the
Not everybody
audio
notices.
listeners.
That's
Yeah.
true.
What
True.
about people just listening?
Yeah.
But we also have one Canadian, one
How's it going,
Irishman,
eh?
and one American here. So can you guess which which is which?
Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. An Irishman, a Canadian, and an American walk into a bar.
Ouch.
We also have a Baptist, a Presbyterian, and a Pentecostal.
Yeah, there
How's
we go.
that for a joke?
There we go.
You're the only one left out there, Tim. I mean, Presbyterian starts with a P, and so does Pentecostal. So
Yep.
that's how do you square away superior theology between a Pentecostal and a Presbyterian? I don't know either.
Oh, I thought you had a good
Yeah.
joke for that. I mean,
No.
I
it
thought
was
I
such a
did
good
too. No,
setup. Where's the
it
punchline?
was. I'll tell you in tongues later. How's that?
I
Sounds
bet
good.
we'll just ask Keith if you're listening to this.
That's
Keith
right.
Foskey, give us a joke to go with the question.
Yeah, give us a superior theology joke.
All right. Well, while we're on the topic of denominations, let's do this quiz together.
Okay.
A simple guide to decide if you're Presbyterian, Baptist, Dutch Reformed, Anglican, or Lutheran. Do you like wine? No. Then you're Baptist. Yes. Do you like mints during the service? Yes, is Dutch Reformed. What? How do you feel about Zwingli? Idiot. Then you're Lutheran. He's okay. What about prayer books? Love it. Then you're Anglican. No thanks. You're Presbyterian. Put that away before I draw my sword. You're Scottish Presbyterian.
Well, I think between what about prayer books and Presbyterian, there should be a Pentecostal one that says, "What do you think about tongues?" And then no thanks would be
Oh,
Presbyterian, and yes, give me them all.
okay.
It's Pentecostal.
Okay.
Because that's
Well,
our only difference, right? Between the Pentecostals and Pres, that's our only difference.
I see some skepticism on Nicholas's face.
Like the prayer books part. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're
Presbyterian.
still you're
We
still
we like our
assessing the chart there.
we like our prayer books too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's face it. Historically, the there was divided views about the prayer book, and the Anglicans were definitely the pro prayer book people for sure. The Book
Oh
of
yeah.
Common Prayer. Yeah, that's what I think it's more referring to as a joking reference.
Mm.
But as far as that last part there about the Scottish, I think that's actually quite pertinent because you've been seeing that news report about that girl with the sword and the axe or whatever. She's
Mhm.
Scottish, right?
Yeah.
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 Mm.
So do Scottish? I mean, you're closer over there. Are they really big into swords?
Oh yeah, as a culture, yeah, but that's that topic has divided opinions of a lot of people. For me personally, um,
Hmm.
I think that young girl did exactly what she needed to do. She protected herself and her sister. Our country is currently being ravaged by a lot of illegal immigrants who are kidnapping, and I won't say the word because it's not allowed on YouTube. Um, and the police don't do a lot about it. So
Hmm.
citizens are starting to stand up for themselves. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're pro sword.
I
Here,
am
here, here in America, we have pro
Pro
gun and
pro
anti
gun.
gun, as
I
you
am
know.
pro protect your life.
And
That's
and in
Yeah.
Canada, they have neither.
Well,
They're
we
not
had an
allowed to have guns
interesting.
or swords.
Well, we are allowed to have guns. It's just as highly regulated. But we had a recent. You'll get a kick out of this one. So this is in Lindsay, which is about an hour from where I live, and somebody had broken into a guy's house And so they beat him up and cast him out. Yeah, this is the Christian coming, cast him out. But he like did some he did some physical damage to the guy who like broke into his house. And so when the police finally came, they arrested the homeowner
Yep.
for assault. It's absolutely wild. Like I don't get it. I don't understand. That's being covered by Rebel News, which is kind of
interesting.
our anti-disestablishmentarian news
Whoa.
here.
Using the big words there.
If I had an ism on the end of it, that would have been
someone in the
longest
audience
word.
here said, "Canadians are so nice until you drop the hockey puck."
Sure.
Is that true?
Well, it depends. If you're going 60 in front of me in an 80 zone, then Canadians aren't very nice with that either.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
Well,
you know
us
what?
Americans, when we go to Canada, it can be confusing because, we use miles per hour.
That's
So,
right.
if anything, we're more likely to be going, 100 miles an hour when we're supposed to be going 100 kilometers an hour.
You go crazy fast. No, it's all good. It's all good. But no, I don't really watch hockey. The only time I really watch hockey is if like Canada is doing really well in the Olympics and they're like playing Russia or America or something. Then I'll watch that. But yeah, just generally, I don't. But I still say A sometimes. A.
Yeah, you do have a little bit of a Canadian mannerism about you. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. But Nicholas, it's very hard to tell he's Irish. Very hard.
Yeah. Although I'm not as Irish, I really do have to get some of my friends on here because you would not understand a word they're saying. I'm clear compared to them.
Last week, I had to interpret for our guest because Nicholas would say things and the guest would say, "What did he ask?"
Have you seen the video of the guy who was trying to say "purple burglar alarm"?
Oh yeah,
Can you do it? Are you able to say it?
Oh yeah, that's a Scottish thing. So purple burglar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Lemmy is a Scottish comedian.
Yeah.
But the Scots do have trouble with certain words. They can't say purple burglar alarm. There's a few others not coming to the top of my head, but they do have trouble with some. Mainly, if a word's got an R in it, it can be a bit hard for them.
Okay.
What's the challenge for the Irish?
We don't really.
They have no problem saying anything.
Apparently, and I'm probably going to make someone in the audience laugh. Apparently, we say per wrong.
Per? Like as per something?
As in, like someone as a per man.
A per man?
Cats say
per. So a rich man and a per man.
Oh, okay.
So there's
okay. Yeah.
So
that's funny.
What do cats say in Ireland?
Per. Oh, they don't say that, to be fair. They say meow, but I knew when you were getting that.
Yeah. You're right, meow. But
it's too funny.
They do purr, don't they?
Yeah, purr, not purr.
Okay.
See, you can't hear it, but I can.
Yeah, I know. All the Irish people are like, obviously those are different words. Mm-hmm. Clearly.
Yep.
Huh. Well.
See, look at Samantha trying to be smart here in the comments. Yes, a man that purrs, Samantha.
I agree, Samantha. That's what it sounds like to me. It just sounds like a cat purring.
Uh-huh.
That's good to know. So if I'm in Ireland, I need to say purr if I'm talking about being poor.
Mm-hmm. You see, if we were to emphasize and say poor, we would sound like we're really putting on a pretentious voice. So, well, no, it doesn't mean you're pretentious. I mean over here because of the way our accent works.
Do I sound pretentious when Irish people listen to me?
No. What I'm saying is, if we were to really emphasize words like that, we would because like we have a culture over here that would be very, who do you think you are? Like, don't forget where you came from. So if I all of a sudden started pronouncing that word differently, I would be very quickly told, calm down, mate.
Oh, okay.
So how do you say about?
About.
About?
Well,
What about you,
that's
Tim?
you.
Yeah,
You're the about guy.
I'm just curious now, like about.
yeah. So we say about.
I say about.
And you guys
Oh
say
yeah,
about.
yeah. It's totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
You're
Canadians.
like
I can
about.
always tell as soon as a Canadian says about, or if they say sorry. I know they're from
Sorry.
Canada if they say sorry. Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Oops, sorry.
For some reason, you sounded more like Andrew Tate there whenever you said that.
Oh,
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
He's got a weird blend of like an English and
Yeah.
whatever accent. So
Well, I'm mimicking. I'm not obviously giving the authentic accent, but that's what it
I
sounds like you saying "per."
yeah, I didn't have Tim Frisch sounds like Andrew Tate on my bingo card today.
well, there you go. He now does.
Hopefully, that will be the only thing you ever associate with me and that guy.
Oh boy.
So, just so everyone knows, our guest today is actually Pastor Dwayne Green from Canada. We're having a cultural discussion right now, and we are really intending to have a pretty laid back discussion here. Last week's was pretty intense. We were talking about Bible translation, about the MIV, but we decided to calm things down, so we got a Pentecostal pastor on with us, and we're going to just talk about things that we're thinking about right now. Dwayne was wanting us to maybe talk a little bit about AI technology today. So we will get into that. And also, Dwayne on his channel has covered textual criticism quite a bit. And I always forget, Dwayne, what terminology you prefer, but I want to say you would call yourself more of a Byzantine text person. Am I right on that? Am I wrong?
Yeah, so I just call myself a Byzantine priorist. So this is
Priorist,
kind of the similar flavor as what comes from Maurice Robinson.
Yeah,
so you probably know him from his text if you're in that world.
So we can maybe get into that some today, and of course we want to let the audience ask any questions that you have. And now's your chance if you want to know anything about Canada, Ireland, or New England. We're all here.
That's funny.
Yeah, so let's get into AI. There's nothing controversial about that, right?
No way. No, not in a million years.
Yeah. It's definitely becoming, more and more of a topic because it's just kind of integrated into what we do now. I was actually telling the guys before we came on here that even on my phone, because I have a Google Pixel. They have these two guys have phones that aren't very up to date. They're called iPhones, but my Google Pixel gives me the option sometimes when someone says, "Do you want to meet tomorrow at 10?" It'll give me options for quick answers, and I can press the button and it gives a generated response. So that's AI, built right in now. I didn't download that to my phone intentionally. It's just, And in the audience, let us know if you have any other examples. But what about you guys? How's AI taking over your world?
I'm
Yeah, I'll let you go first, Twin.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm trying not to let it take over my world, but it's hard. It's hard, right? Because when you do a Google search, the first thing that comes up is an AI prompt, right? It's like right there, and this is because when you make a Google search, right? You expect to get a list of websites, or at least that's how it used to function. And then, you click on the website, read an article or whatever, depending on what you're looking at or researching. But now it's just this little blurb. It's all summarized for you. And that's kind of cool. But I have a YouTube channel. I do text critical stuff, and I'm looking for a solution to start putting this stuff in writing because if someone comes with a question, it's a lot easier to say, here, click this link, than it is to say, watch this video. And then you got to find the video. And I mean, I guess you could use AI to search your videos for that kind of stuff. But anyway, so my thinking surrounding having this place where I could put these articles, it's now part of my thinking is now, well, I'm going to spend, 4 hours researching something and then another hour and a half writing it out, only for it to be summarized by AI and nobody to click and read the article that I put tons of work into. So this is one of those things out there that AI is starting to kind of make you kind of think about, and that now we're not even talking about the video or image stuff that's happening with artificial intelligence, which that's going to change. That is changing the world.
No kidding.
We'll pause that part now because we'll go on forever. Because Nicholas, you have
yes, you just set us up there. Bringing up,
I did
and stuff.
Yeah. So I use AI and I don't use AI. I use AI to make a weekly planner for me. So like things I need to do throughout the week, like what time I need to give it, all that sort of stuff. What I absolutely refuse to use AI for is anything that involves critical thinking. I have been working on this. I guess I'm telling it now outside my inner circle for the first time. I have been working on a little bit of research for this past 3 months. The research was not done primarily by me. I'm just writing about it, but there is evidence that is linked now to showing. So they did this study. Oxford did this study where they had 100 people using AI and 100 people not using AI, and they had them using it for a period of 100 days. And after the 100 days, they all sat an exam without AI, so you had nothing to look up. The people that did not use AI for 100 days had far, far higher test scores. The people that did not, or sorry, the people that did use AI not only had far lower scores, but they actually had scores below what their average IQ should be. So then, whenever they did some brain mapping on the 100 that used AI, it showed that neural pathways in their brain had actually become damaged. So it severed thinking process. So if you use AI for critical thinking, you might want to stop because it is evidence is showing that it is damaging your ability to think critically. Now, before we go on any further to that, I would also just point out I have tested AI numerous times with apologetics topics as well, because one thing I constantly push back on in X is seeing people copy and paste AI responses and pretending it's apologetics. AI will consistently make mistakes, especially in theological categories. It cannot operate with it. It just can't. It will tell you something very confidently. Like, for example, it'll say such and such out of John Calvin's Institutes. You then go and look up that passage, it doesn't exist. So if you're copying and pasting stuff and trying to pass it off as your work, you are going to be found out. Just be wary of that. That's all I say in that.
Yeah, and just to second that, like the same thing in text critical thought. I remember asking it about Mark 16, 9 through 20 and James Snap's view on it, just out of kicks. And if you know who James Snap Jr. is, he's like the forefront of the support for Mark 16, 9 through 20. And it summarized his view in the totally opposite direction that he actually goes. It seemed to have shown that, James Snap, he thinks that even though it's not original or authentic, doesn't mean it was just such a and so if you like, just like you said, if you're taking your summaries from AI's generation, then you're going to be wrong probably about 20% of the time, and 20% of the time is a lot.
Oh, it's a lot, yeah. Because here's the other thing people don't talk about too is Grok's a perfect example of this, and so is ChatGPT. Their answers will depend on who they are answering, because they build, and I'm air quoting this, a personal relationship with who they are speaking to. Their answers will vary. So I'm Reformed. So if I ask ChatGPT, say for example, a question on, I don't know, John 3:16, it's going to give me a Reformed interpretation. Dwayne, if you were to ask it the same question, you're going to get more of a Pentecostal persuasion.
Right.
Tim, you're going to get a Baptist persuasion. Then you've got people coming online and saying, oh, well, Like some people are so brazen, they're like, "What? Well, Grok says you're wrong," and it's like, okay, I'll ask Grok, and now Grok will say you're wrong. Now what? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's very silly. It's very silly.
So
It would
AI.
be interesting. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say AI is kind of like politicians. It tells you what you want to hear.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I say it would be an interesting experiment to have the three of us do something really controversial like Calvinism or not, and then just ask it in our own personal, Grok or ChatGPT or whoever. How do you interpret Romans 9? And
Mm-hmm.
see if it would interpret that in light of what I believe, in light of what you guys believe.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really interesting.
Oh
Just
yeah,
as an exercise. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
could for sure do that one day because
Yeah.
I know mine especially because like it's used to me asking questions from my perspective. It doesn't
Mhm.
answer any other way now. So even whenever I would like say for example, if I do use it to like I don't know, get a quick quote or whatever, because like I mainly use AI for just planners and stuff, so I don't use it for apologetics. But if I was to put something in there, like say I asked it something about Roman Catholicism or something, it would
Mhm.
try and spew something back to me more Presbyterian, and I'm like, that's not what I asked you. So yeah, it's if you're relying on AI, you're a fool. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I
That's
did
right.
see a YouTube channel that has debates where it will actually use AI to argue both sides of a topic, and it uses AI voice technology too to actually give the arguments verbally. And for example, they had one on that channel that was about abortion, and it was actually pretty well done. I mean, AI, it gets a lot of things wrong for sure. I wouldn't put a lot of trust in it to like know what a certain group believes. But in
Yeah.
terms of like this particular application where they were just trying to say, okay, what would one side of the debate argue? What would the other side argue? It actually did a pretty good job of, you know, giving both viewpoints. And, I mean, from what I remember, I thought the pro-life side was pretty strong. So, I thought that was interesting.
Mm.
That's funny.
Well, that's the thing. AI, it's a tool. It can be used
Yeah.
well. It can be. But what I'm saying and what I think Dwayne agrees with is if you're relying on it though, but to do critical thinking for you, that's the
Yeah.
bad part because it is going to make mistakes and you may not notice them because like 90% of what it gives you might be totally bang on. But you might just miss that 10% where it says something really silly like
Yeah.
John Wesley once said, "You've got to catch them all." Right? I know that sounds really,
Was he a
really
big
stupid.
Pokemon fan or something?
Well, according to ChatGPT, he might be. I'm sorry, Tony, to use
That's
John
funny.
Wesley, but that's my point. If you are just because there are definitely people out there, I know there are because you can see it in replies. People are quite literally just copying and pasting, and as Dwayne said earlier, some people are still
Yeah.
leaving the prompts in. Like they're
Yeah.
leaving the prompts in because they forget to take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about some ways you might consider using it, even in like a ministry? Like if you're doing apologetics, what would be a way you might use it that would be helpful, or with pastoring? Like I know for pastors, there are pastors probably who are like, I'll just have AI write my sermon. I wouldn't do that.
No. No.
Um, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but the
I'll
main
bet.
one being, I just feel like the whole point of a sermon is for you to personally be spiritually benefiting and thinking through things,
Hmm.
and then it coming from your heart when you speak to the people that it's actually
That's
your
right.
voice.
That's right.
But I could still see AI being helpful. I mean, just as an example, I think you mentioned it already, Dwayne. I think the AI overview sometimes can be a really nice summary when you're looking up a topic. I mean, you should double check your sources for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But if you want to know kind of what generally websites are saying about a topic, a lot of times it will summarize some key points and be fairly accurate as long as it's general information.
Mm.
Yeah, I typically try to keep AI as far away from my sermon prep as I can. So I've been mostly successful, but of course, when you Google something, you get the AI, the AI preface at the top. Now, if I look at that and I see something, I will go to the link. I'm not going to just be
Right.
like looking at that. I'll be checking the link out.
True.
But I have found AI to be useful in a couple other domains. So one is you're aware, Tim, that I do astrophotography. So we get the telescope out and you take pictures of the sky. And one of the things I have to overcome when I'm showing my images is noise, right? Because you're using a CCD sensor on a black sky, and so there's ways to mitigate some of the noise. So you do all these techniques to get rid of the noise, and then when your final image is brought forward and it's all stacked and ready to go, there's still a bit of noise. So I'll use something called Graxpert, and it's a tool with a view to specifically astrophotography, manipulating photos and stuff. And there's a little AI plugin that will denoise the image for you without ruining the image. So I have found that to be useful. And there's one that I would find useful if I could just find a way to get it, and that would be editing video. So all the ums and ahs out of a video, or all those moments of silence, I go through and manually take those out, and it takes hours. But I mean, if I could get an artificial intelligent assistant to take those out for me, then I would be okay with that kind of stuff. Like that's the stupid mundane stuff, right? That nobody wants to do.
Now you said ums and ahs, but what about a's?
A's? No, I leave them in. That's my Canadian heritage, eh? No, no. So yeah, I mean, I could see using now when it comes to things like thumbnails and video editing, like actually, like just don't. I mean, humans are creative people. Let's not outsource our humanness to a machine. That's my
What
thoughts.
happens though when machines get better and better, and it's really hard to tell the difference? That's going to be so interesting, because I had a friend of mine telling me that he went on a website where you just type in prompts to create songs,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was making songs. He was shocked at how good the songs were.
Yeah.
So
I would personally say there will always be. I don't care how good it gets. There will always be telltale signs that something is AI. Um, AI lacks, for a better word, soul. Um, So even like, I'm just going purely by written text here, you can just tell it sounds too polished. Even when you look at videos. So here's a great example. Will Smith is currently undergoing a lot of flack because
I saw that.
he recently shared concert footage of his massive audience, which was all AI. So he fluffed the numbers and said that his concert was basically sold out, and they filmed the footage with AI, but you have people there with distorted faces, seven fingers, signs that don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You lose credibility whenever you do things like that. So there's another example. So you ask, what about, and Dwayne answered about Pastor, and he said he wouldn't let it anywhere near his sermon. I see Factless Cowboy says here as well, he wouldn't even allow AI to write teaching for his kids' church.
Yeah.
I won't let it touch my apologetics. What I will do in the background is I will do almost like anti AI. So, like, I will test AI to see how it does handle, say, apologetical arguments, and it does horrendously. That's why you probably don't see it as much because I haven't been talking about it as much recently. But on X, I will always, every now and again, come back to the point of AI apologists on X, and we can tell. By the way, if you use it, we can tell that you're using it because it's too polished. It's not written in the manner that you normally speak in your normal text, so we can tell there's a difference in your argument. But overall, there's just a lot of mistakes in it, like just a lot. Like, here's a good prompt for you. Next time you're on ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, ask it to explain the hypostatic union to you from the Chalcedonian definition. Just watch what results you get and ask that question 3 times and watch the result change. Then tell me you trust AI to give you your apologetics.
Yeah.
So this guy here, I'm a little suspicious of him. Look at his last
This
name.
guy. That sounds like an AI name.
Yeah, it does, doesn't
I'll
it?
fact check.
Alan, good to see you in the chat. That's my brother, actually. He's
Yeah.
good to see you. And he says, Dwayne, I've been using AI to help me collate disputed readings and listing manuscript support for each.
Yeah.
So
Just a word of caution there. Like, even when you're checking people who have done the collations, and when you find it, you still have to double check them. So yeah, it's a notorious difficult field, and there, I mean, it's not as bad, but there are certainly errors and stuff in some of these texts and some of the apparatuses. So yeah, you got to really keep an eye on that. So now you're talking about 2 or 3 levels removed from accuracy. So just careful with that. You're gonna have to really check the results. Might be a good starting point, but that's about all I would do for AI and collating some of that data.
Do you think? I mean, this is where when we say AI, it can be a little bit ambiguous as to because I would say software, computer programs
Mhm.
have for a long time used something that we could call AI, artificial intelligence, just programming to say it's going to do this for you. So
Well, that's not really AI though, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
help me parse out, like, because I think that's a really fascinating point to make. Like, what is the difference between AI specifically and something like a program that is meant to do something specific?
Yeah, so I worked at an insurance company for a while before I became a pastor about 4 years ago. And so I was a software developer there, and I did what was called robotic process automation. It sounds really, it sounds really like highfalutin, like, whoa, this guy's really smart. But in reality is robotic process automation is like macros that you just, apply to a whole machine instead of like an application. So before I had left, we started experimenting with artificial intelligence. And so the difference between something like an RPA robot or even just a general application is that the algorithms are set in stone and the algorithms do what they've been coded to do. But in artificial intelligence, the algorithm learns and changes itself in order for some sort of purpose here. So when you talk about a general purpose program, you're typically working on structured data. That's data in tables or with tags or with, whether it's XML or JSON or whatever, or whatever, right? It works on structured data. But AI, on the other hand, is meant for working on unstructured data. So that is, you get an email and you want an AI to catalog, or you want a program to catalog that email. Your typical stuff might look for some keywords amongst the email and then categorize it that way. Of course, that could be wrong because the keywords could just be a side effect of something you're talking about or whatever it is, right? But an AI would analyze that, and it would actually gain a context of what that is and then catalog it that way. So it's a difference in how
Makes sense.
the programming functions. Yeah.
With both though, with any tool, you need to know what its limitations are, and you need to use it correctly. Like it seems like with any tool, a lot depends on the user for the end result to work the way it should. So what you just said there, and I think you may have read his follow-up response. AI is no less accurate than a lot of textual critics.
That's right.
I think
That's
someone
funny.
who's very responsible who uses AI, is able to think carefully. They could use AI in a way that could be really helpful with something like what he's talking about there.
Yeah.
Versus someone using a computer program that's set in stone, but they don't know the logic, and they're not using the tool the right way. So
Yeah,
a lot
one
of
of
it
the
boils down to
things.
how we use our tools.
Yeah, one of the things that AI is being developed for. So again, I come back to that insurance company before we were using, testing AI on paper applications. Somebody sends in an application, and then we had we don't have, I don't work for them anymore. We had a team of data entry people who would sit there and take the paper application and enter it into the system. So we were working on an AI to read paper applications and just input it into the system automatically. Now, when I had left about 4 or 5 years ago, we were still at like a 80 to 85% error rate. So when you're talking about paper applications and stuff, you need 99.999. Like 1% error is still junk. But anyway, so that similar idea is apparently being used to read biblical manuscripts. So when we talk about biblical manuscripts, we have unsealed manuscripts, which are like our older ones, right? Pre 900. A big copying revolution happened somewhere around 900, 1000, and we ended up with this sort of cursive Greek script. And it's easier to read the unseals. They've all been cataloged. They've all been transcribed, and you can go and see what they say. There's about, I think there's about 600 of them. And then the remaining 4,400 manuscripts are the minuscules. And they're not cataloged anywhere near finished because it's hard to read. They're bigger manuscripts, like there's more text there. And so they're thinking about getting these bots or working on getting these bots. I saw an article not too long ago. I wish I had kept it flagged. But the hope is to be able to get some sort of AI system to be able to read these manuscripts and do the transcriptions because it's so labor intensive. So obviously this would be applied not just to biblical manuscripts, but a lot of other historical manuscripts and stuff. So we can all hear about Mr. Nastier's complaint about his copper quality. That was really bad. So anyway, I think that would be like an okay use of artificial intelligence, but it has to get better. Because even at a 99% correct rate, that 1%, like take AI in cars. Like if you're 99% good with your AI driving your car, but that 1%, there's an accident. Well, how many million cars are there? How many accidents
raises
is
a really
that?
interesting question.
Yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I've thought about this before. This is really hard for us as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like I would have a hard time getting in a car. I agree with you. My impulse would be, why would I want to get into a car that's 99%, dependable?
Your control.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the thing. What if we found out that the AI cars at some point were surpassing humans in how well they drive? The thing about those percentages is we're a lot more forgiving of ourselves if we're the ones who get to make the choice. Even if the statistics said that if I get into a car today, this is the percent of something happening, I'll do it because I feel like I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
So it does raise a challenging question for us, which is at what point are we willing to let AI do something if the percentages are actually in favor of AI? So take your example there.
Yeah.
Would you switch to using AI to do research if AI ended up being more accurate than a typical human?
Yeah, I mean that would be a difficult call. So again, I have to come back to I want to keep AI as far away from my sermon prep, from spiritual things.
So
I
course,
don't
right.
want to touch
Right,
them.
I get that.
I preached a sermon a little while ago when ChatGPT first came out, and it was like the big news, and everybody was talking. I preached a sermon about AI and basically promised the congregation to never use AI in my sermon preparations. Like I will never have it auto-generate anything like that. But when you start getting to the point where AI is just as good, and this is but to the, I'm always going to prep my sermons. This is but to the question that Tim's asking about. If its error rates get
research
better.
or something like that.
Yeah. Would I? It would depend. Like, what is that research doing? If this is like Nicholas was saying earlier, if this is me putting aside my critical thinking faculties, I would have to say no.
Then no, right.
Because it would
What
be
about
totally
driving?
destructive.
I'm sorry about like I'm just so curious. Like if it came between getting in a car that statistically did better than humans and it was self-driving, or you driving yourself, would you still trust yourself more than the car?
You know what? I don't think it would be a matter of trusting myself more than the car. I think it would be a matter of on principle. just picture me as Will Smith in iRobot, just rejecting all of the AI. Okay, I think you know what? I actually, the more I think about this, the more I feel like I need to reject AI as much as I possibly can. Like we're getting to the place where AI is ubiquitous, and I don't think we're going to be able to avoid it entirely.
No.
But I'd like to think that where I can avoid it, that I'm going to avoid it. I think that's what I'm going to do.
I don't really know how old you guys are, but I think you're younger than me. So you guys are like millennials, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
am I wrong to say that? So like
no,
here we are. I'm the end of Gen X, and these millennials are like, we can't. Enough with the AI.
Shake fist at the sky.
I think AI has got its uses, but those uses should be incredibly limited. So, for example, some of our local taxis are now, well, I shouldn't say some, there's one currently, but they're looking to expand them because they're having trouble now getting taxi drivers being able to actually sit the exam where you have to learn the area. So they've now got a self-driving car. Would I get in the one for the very short journey that it would take me around the town? Yeah, I would. Would I consistently opt to have a self-driving car? No, because I've been given a God-given ability to use my eyes, my hands, my feet. I can drive a car. So why would I offload that to something else? It's just at that point, it's just being lazy. And I would say that about a lot of AI. You can make AI. So you guys a while ago talked about it being a tool, but let's look at a carpenter. He still has to pick up his saw, his chisel. He still has to work with it. If you give him a machine that does a lot of the work for him, and in carpentry, there are certain machines that you can just put your wood into. You can even almost like a 3D printer, you can type in a code and let it carve out the wood for you. Now ask that carpenter, does he have as much pride in the product that came out of the machine versus the product he would sculpt by hand? His answer will be no. And that's why most traditional carpenters will only use the machine for certain projects that maybe is too hard to do by hand or it's too labor intensive. But I would say no, AI should be limited to, if you are going to use it as a tool, keep it incredibly limited is my view on it, because otherwise you're just offloading whatever you want to call it. You're just offloading.
I have a feeling most people at a certain age would kind of agree with that. But I do wonder with younger generations, just like especially my youngest kids, you know, where it's just going to be the world they grow up in. I wonder how they'll look at it. Oh, by the way, Feckless Cowboy, I'll read this comment. He says, I know that AI is safer, and I still want to ride with a human.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I suspect, is that there's still something with it. I was thinking with that comment, what about getting on a plane?
Well,
if someday, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, before we go on to that topic, I was just going to say, you asked the question earlier when I just had the nip out. You know, what's the difference between, you know, say like a computer program and an AI? An AI is designed to replicate human intelligence. So whenever you interact with an AI, like the key word there being interact, it's talking back to you as if it is a sentient being. It's not. So that would be a big part in why I would also be distrustful of AI overall. Because here's a great example. Grok got banned on X about a month ago because people were able to manipulate Grok into saying certain things about the Holocaust. That shows you what you can do with AI. That's why it goes back to my point earlier about saying, if I was to interact with my Grok versus Dwayne interacting with his Grok and you interacting with your Grok, we could all make Grok say various different things to the point where all three Groks are disagreeing with each other. There's a huge contradiction there. And if people can't see that, and they're relying on that. Like just the other day, I had a Roman Catholic guy reply to me, and it was like, "Grok, who started the church?" And obviously, Grok replied, Jesus. And my response to him was like, "Dude, like if that's your level of argumentation, this is not a conversation we're having because I'm not interacting with Grok."
Yeah, it's getting to be kind of relentless how many people on X will constantly ask Grok to clarify something, and I get it. Like I understand why people do it, but it's just pervasive now. But going back to the plane, that's just another example where our visceral response would probably override even logic and statistics. Like if there was technology that allowed the plane to fly itself, and it statistically was more reliable than a human, it still would be really hard for us to get on that plane. I think a lot of us to get on that plane.
Yeah, but I don't think we're going to have a choice, though.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the whole I was going to say, I think the whole transportation industry is going to be upended with AI.
Wow.
The whole industry. We're talking boats, planes, trucks, taxi services. I think the entire.
It starts with integrating it into our vehicles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a company is it San Francisco, Waymo, that has driverless taxis right now, and it's currently active and running.
But even our regular cars are going to start to have AI probably in them more and more. Like already they have things that are helping people like with lane shifting, So little by little, when I was young, it was cruise control was a new thing, Wow, press a button.
Well, we've got adaptive cruise control in our car, right? So I just hit the button, and it's got the lane assist, so it keeps you from rearing out, and it matches the speed of the car next to you and stuff.
Are you using that, Dwayne? Are you using that AI technology?
That's not AI. That's not AI.
Okay, that's not AI.
That's not AI.
What I was going to say,
if it starts talking to you, then you won't do it.
Right? Yeah.
But I was going to say about the planes, though, but like what a lot of us don't realize is if you know a pilot in your life, ask them this question. A lot of them, when they're in the air and they've did take off, they've leveled out, they switch to autopilot. So that's not AI, but it is still autopilot, meaning the pilot at that stage is doing very little.
I understand there's a fine line here between like what we're calling AI, but because of the way software is the trajectory of the way it's being developed, all of that stuff is going to integrate AI more and more.
Oh, 100%.
You'll already be used to using it, and then it'll switch over to AI.
But that's my point. So going back to your question about would you step into a plane that was flown by AI, the likelihood is you would, though, because minus the pilot getting you up into the air, doing the landing and all that, the rest of your journey is not currently AI, but like an AI could actually technically do what autopilot is currently doing.
It's getting closer and closer to it.
Well, just think you wouldn't have to pay a pilot salary. I mean, how much does a pilot make in a flight? Yeah.
Well, you see, this is the other.
That's the driving factor, though, is big corporations not having to pay employees. That's huge.
On that note, do you all commonly at markets now, supermarket, or even at when you go to a restaurant, is it a lot of like computerized self-checkout and kiosks, even to order your food at McDonald's? Have you been using that?
I have not seen that very often. We have
in Canada?
Like we have some here, like Walmart has self-checkout, but that's kind of, well, I shouldn't say that there's some. I mean, it's easy to ignore, I guess, because you can just go and get in line, and the lineups are usually pretty quick anyway. The grocery store doesn't have it. Like it's not as big of a deal here, like that sort of thing. But I have
have a McDonald's that has kiosks.
Well, I haven't been to McDonald's in like 6 months. It's been like ages, but yeah.
You might be shocked. You go back and it's all robots. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think if I happen to, I'm just going to tell them I want to talk to a person.
I was going to say at our McDonald's, we still have people behind the counter serving you, but you can no longer order at the till. You have to order at the kiosk. So that's where it is becoming automated. And again, how long will it be? Because there already are restaurants out there that just basically put your food through a chute. You pick up your bag and off you go. So that's another reason why I would tell people not to be so reliant on AI. Is it already is taking over a lot of people's jobs, and it's kicking them out of their jobs. Like, big companies don't need to pay workers a yearly salary whenever they can just invest a lot of money into AI to do it, and that one big time payment is covered then by the rest of the year by not having to pay employees. Like, you think about it, Amazon now are even delivering packages via drones.
I was thinking the same thing. Just
Yeah.
drones, no man in the middle, no mailman or nothing. Just here you go.
And the funny thing is, the many fails I have seen of Amazon drones dropping the package in the wrong garden as well. So, like, that's another example of why, if you can, avoid it.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the world is always, changing, but the things that we're seeing right now, it's hard to adapt, hard to process, really, everything.
Yeah. And it is generational too. Like, a lot of the younger generations, they're not as wary of it as we are, but I think they will be in time, because by the time they get to, like, say, my age or Dwayne or your age or whatever, they'll have seen AI advance probably so drastically that it probably even intimidates them, because they'll see things like certain job roles no longer need people to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The one like hopeful thing is that no matter how much technology advances, there's usually like some sort of a revival, and sometimes it's kind of spurred on by like the loss of something, So because we've lost physical media so much, it's amazing, but one of the like biggest resurgences of listening to music is records. Like, there's a big market again, for records, or a bigger market than there has been, right? So, hopefully, even with things like restaurants, there will always be people out there providing a service, from the old times, right? No matter how much the world changes.
So here's a good little segue into something we kind of discussed off screen, and I'll let Dwayne pick up on this if he gets what I'm putting down. We have a restaurant, or sorry, not a restaurant, a supermarket over here. And when I say over here, I don't mean Northern Ireland specifically, I mean the UK in general. And it is completely unmanned. There's no people in the store. You walk in, you stand on a plate, you're weighed, you go pick up your items, you're weighed on the way out. But in order to pay, you pay by your palm face down on.
Here we go.
So
here we go.
You're making the premillennialists nervous here.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so,
Oh no!
I'll throw that one over to you guys.
It's the mark of the beast. It's the mark of the beast. Now
your forehead too, don't they?
Yeah, on the way out. That's what the overhead cameras are for. So that's funny coming from you, because you're not a premillennialist. No,
that's why he's not scared.
But see, even Nicholas knows. Even the Amill post mill. Even the post mill knows that there's something up with this, right?
Oh, 100%. For me, it is not the mark of the beast. But what I will say is, I do not like that in any form. It's incredibly invasive, and my government, personally speaking, ask for way too much information. Like, I mean, even if we try and purchase things online, they ask for information they do not need, and I often opt out and refuse. But the idea that they want me to, for a supermarket app, they want me to register my fingerprints and my palm in order to pay for groceries. No,
not happening.
You can keep your groceries.
I remember one time I went into I think it was like just an off-brand coffee shop, just to go get a coffee, and I ordered the coffee, and they wanted my phone number. And to put into their system, and I was like, "What do you need my phone number for? I just want a coffee." And I just said, "No, I just give me the coffee." Right? I was nice about it, obviously, but
the other thing you said, Nicholas, is that they use a weighing system where they weigh you. So I would imagine that would make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Oh, probably, but like, if you were able to interact with say a normal cashier or whatever, I wouldn't be as bothered about that because it's the company taking the risk. Because say, for example, I go in and I weigh, say, what, like 240 or whatever, and I come out and I suddenly weigh 265. They now know, based on the weight of what they've seen me buy through all the cameras and stuff, they calculate then what you're owed. You scan your palm print, and that's linked to your account. So it's not like there's a chip in your hand or anything. Your palm print is registered to the account that you've already signed up and added your card to. So you then leave the store, no payment necessary, and a couple of hours later, your payment will come out of your account. But that's just, it's invasive.
So you don't go there.
Yeah.
You don't go to that one.
We don't personally have one over here, but in England they do have some.
Wild.
Okay. Yeah, Tony, he quipped, it's the supermarket of the beast.
That's funny.
Very smart.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, I'm fat when I go in and fat when I come out. Like, what does it matter?
What if you lose weight when you leave?
This is free product, I guess.
Do you get credits? You know,
maybe you don't get out of the store. I don't know.
That's
maybe
right.
They keep you in there.
They'll put a gym in the back of the store.
When you were talking about like getting your hand scanned though, and all of that, it made me think about. I don't know if I heard this wrong, but I have a feeling someone did say it when I was young. They had this idea that barcodes were the mark of the beast. You've heard this theory.
Oh, that's common, yeah.
And that they use 666 somehow in their.
It's actually true. It's actually true. On a UPC barcode, they have two long lines on the ends and then two long lines in the middle. And the two long lines in the UPC code is the representative for the number 6. So it really is like there is a 666 there. That's true. Right. So now, is it the mark of the beast? No, I don't think so.
If Joe Rogan were on here, we could definitely get him. He'd be a premillennialist by the time we're done with this episode.
Probably.
The bar, like, there's so many examples. Like, anytime, like, they once thought Social Security was the mark of the beast. They thought it was a barcode. It's anything.
Oh, sure.
You know, and that's not me putting down people that believe in that. I just firmly don't believe in it, and I think it's.
That is interesting, though.
Yeah,
the barcode has 666.
Yeah, you can do it. Just copy any barcode, and there's a barcode font that's actually used for making the barcodes. And if you look at it, it is there is a sort of reminder thing, or like it brings to mind. Every time there's a change in power, whether it's a new U.S. president or vice president, or whether it's a change in the Pope, that new guy, he's the Antichrist. He's the Antichrist.
When I was young, people said it was Gorbachev. There were some people that would talk about Gorbachev. Yeah.
Dick Cheney, was he? He was a possible Antichrist for a while. Who else was it?
You're not in these, or you haven't been in these circles as much, right? Where the speculation.
No, I have heard of it, because that's what I was going to say. Like, there's a real thing out there where, there's Facebook pages. I'm not on Facebook. Haven't been well over a decade, thankfully. I really don't like Facebook, but that's neither here nor there. They have Facebook pages that are dedicated to adding up people's names to equal 666 as well. So, like, Trump's been on it, Putin's been on it, like. You can pretty much
Bob from Toronto's been on it.
Yeah, you can pretty much make anyone's name add up to it. But it's fascinating to me though. But because, like, for example, and we'll not get into this, we could do this in another stream. But from a partial preterist side, I would believe that the mark of the beast is past. That's something in the past. Does not mean that it cannot be repeated, and that world powers don't like to do similar things like that. So whenever I see, for example, Palms being registered in order to pay for things, oh yeah, of course. It's not good. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But this does come into the question of artificial intelligence, because I have a theory. I'm going to get a premillennial, dispensational Pentecostal.
I hope this is juicy.
here.
We need a sound bite.
I I think, yeah, that's right. A little juicy soundbite. I think that the image of the beast is going to be powered by AI. I think the
I
image.
was going to joke about that earlier, but yeah,
Yeah,
that
no,
makes
no. I
I see
think
a lot of people
honestly,
believing that. Yeah,
I mean, I could be wrong, right? Like this,
no,
we're
that
in
makes sense.
speculation land. I like to make
Yeah.
that clear, but right, if you come into Revelation, 13, I guess we'll start at 13. This is talking about the beast. And so, Tim, I'm going to bring you on my side shortly, and I'm going
Yeah.
to convert you, Nicholas, to a premillennial position.
That's not gonna happen, but you give it a good shot, brother.
But
Do you want
it
me to
says he
pull up the passage? Can you want me to pull it up here? You're in the
yeah,
King
if you
James
got it,
Version.
I'm at it's Revelation
Revelation
13. Let's start at
13.
13. I guess that's a good
Yeah,
place to start. Let's talking
yeah,
about what the Antichrist is going to, or the beast is going to do.
yeah. I've got it. Let me just
Okay.
pull it up here for you. All right, here we go.
All right. Can you zoom that in?
You need it to be
Control
bigger.
mouse wheel up.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Oh, that's
Oh,
too much.
you get an ad. See, that's
too
AI
many
working. Look
ads.
at
Too
all
many
these
ads.
ads.
Yeah. Is that big enough yet?
Can you scroll down?
Sure.
I'd share my screen, but I only have the one screen right now. I haven't got my other one set up here. Okay, so verse 13, it says, he performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. This is the beast. And it says, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. So this is the whole image thing. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both great and rich, poor, free, slave, and receive a mark of the right hand in their foreheads. And we know the rest. The mark of the beast. Don't take it. Don't take the mark of the beast. But it's interesting because this is the image of the beast. This is essentially an idol. And
Yeah.
there's nowhere else in all of the Bible that I can think of where an idol actually speaks. This is the only place. This is the only place where an idol speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you have here is this guy being able to give breath, right? And this is clearly some sort of counterfeit of God giving breath to humans. This is the beast giving breath to the image, giving life to the image. And I don't think that the beast is actually giving life in the sense of, oh, it's a living creature. I think it's more algorithmic, that it's an appearance of life. It's just like the false signs and the false miracles that he's doing, right? And that's what Revelation 13
So we're
is
going to have
about.
to update the Left Behind books.
That's right. I'll have to write the 11th book in the series. the AI
Nicholas is
beast.
like, I can't take this anymore.
That's
Just
right.
keep
That's
me
right.
out of the Left Behind books, and we'll be happy.
Yeah, Nicholas is only being kind because I'm a guest.
No, not at
No,
all.
I'm
I
just kidding.
actually,
I'm just kidding. I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
I know. But one of the things I
Yeah.
actually really do love is so you get a lot of post mill guys out there that have to have it their way. I am very open to the fact that I could be wrong. Very
Mm.
open. I am just convinced from what I've read that primarily Revelation deals with AD 70. Primarily. Doesn't deal with AD 70 in totality. But from what I've read, from what Josephus writes, that lines up
Mhm.
really well with Revelation. When we look at the beast that looks like a lamb but yet speaks like a dragon,
Yeah.
we can see this being apostate Israel in a sense, where they were meant to represent the Messiah. They were meant to represent God, but yet they speak like the dragon.
Mhm.
So I love this. Like Tim and I are planning a topic on
Yeah,
eschatology.
yeah. No, that'd be interesting. Yeah, because
Absolutely.
we look at that and you could just as easily say that it represents the New Testament church.
Yes.
And so we have Paul in is it Second Timothy or First Timothy, talking about the great falling away, the apostasia, and all that. Like so, yeah, there's a lot of interesting takes there.
Yeah. And I
Someone
love
said
talking about
that
eschatology.
this could be a Terminator and Left Behind crossover.
Nice.
Well, not to sidetrack that, Colton, but you should look into the theory that the Terminator and the Matrix movies are actually linked.
Oh,
So you should check that one out. But no, whenever it comes to the Book of Revelation, what I would say first and foremost to anybody is like Tim and I have discussed this briefly on the channel too. No matter your position on the Book of Revelation, you first have to understand that out of the New Testament, it's probably the most Jewish book in the New Testament, as in like
Oh, definitely.
a lot of what John uses is all Old Testament symbolism.
Mhm.
So like you go back and you look in the Old Testament. So whenever John talks about a woman appearing in the sky with the stars around her head and the moon under her feet, you go back and
Mhm.
look at what Israel used to be pictured as: the
That's right.
stars, the moon, and the sun. You read, for example,
Well, it's a dream of Jacob, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Bang on. And then, for example, you could go to the fact that whenever we see in the Book of Revelation, it talks about the sun no longer giving its light and the stars falling from heaven. You go back
Mhm.
into the Old Testament and you find all the places where that language was used. And where was it used? Whenever God was bringing judgment upon a nation
Mhm.
and was basically saying, "I'm about to put your lights out," because
Mhm.
that's what that symbolism used to mean. Now we use the modern term, like if I said to Tim, "I'm going to knock your lights out," Tim, what am I saying to Tim? I'm going to knock
Yeah.
him out cold. So
Yeah. Yeah.
very like, and again, I know people would perhaps differ with me on that, and that's fine because
Yeah. Yeah.
we can talk about it. But uh, it's like I can see Colton here saying he's intrigued. Leslie saying eschatology today. No, we've just moved
Yeah,
into this now
well,
briefly.
it's
So,
kind of a side topic that we're on
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now. I
yeah,
actually want to veer back to something that I said we might talk about, and I want to use this as a launch pad.
mhm.
Sure.
I want to hear Dwayne's opinion about textual criticism specifically related to the book of Revelation, because I did have you read from the New King James.
Yes.
I get the feeling from people, if I remember correctly, someone like James White, that's actually one of his bigger criticisms of the Textus Receptus would be the book of Revelation.
Yeah. Yeah. Revelation. So it's interesting because you look at Revelation 22, 18, and 19, right? The two warning verses. If anyone adds to the words of the prophecy of this book, God
Right,
will add unto him. And
right,
if you take
right.
away, God will take away your part in the book of life, or tree of life, depending whether you're a TR or not. That's an interesting question. But what's just textual criticism as a field, New Testament textual criticism. I haven't looked a whole lot into Old Testament stuff, but I could focused on New Testament work. And the book of Revelation is notoriously difficult. It is a notoriously difficult textual problem.
Okay.
And there's more textual variants. Like if you, it's interesting. Like if you look at a list of variants, so you can find these lists online, and they'll show you all the places where there's a textual variant between, the Textus Receptus and the majority text, or the Textus Receptus and the critical text. And you would see from Matthew to the end of Jude would usually represent about 50 to 60% of all the variants. And then all the rest of the variants are from Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the reason, right, possibly the reason why is if you look at the very beginning of Revelation, John was instructed to write this out and send it to the 7 churches which are in Asia. So you've got all 7 churches getting this copy. They're not going to just send the copy without making their own, right? So they're going to copy one and then send it off. So you've got 7 instances of the book of Revelation right off the get-go. And I think what you see is, I don't know if this can be traced back. Again, I'm not as familiar with the issues with Revelation, but we're currently looking at some stuff for that. But yeah, so you've got these seven independent streams now because of the 7 churches, 7 copying streams. I don't know if there were 7 copying streams that went out, but of course, with that kind of stuff right at the beginning, well, then the textual variants just tend to multiply. So that's why I think Revelation has more textual issues than the rest of the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the nature of these textual variants are typically there's one in the critical edition which is considered to be a solecism, and they put the article before a certain word. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I'll be more specific now, because I think that's a
Yeah.
good general response you're giving. I guess one thing I'm trying to get at is, do you personally trust, kind of if you had to choose, would you choose, like the New King James, for example, over other translations, specifically with Revelation? And would you here? I'll get a specific thing here.
Sure.
The notes in the New King James, I'm noticing here, are very different than what you typically see in other books.
Yes.
If you look through there, usually it says the NU text says such and such a thing. But what you get in Revelation is a lot of NU, comma, M, meaning majority. So if you're a Byzantine guy, this is kind of more what I'm getting at. Would you tend to side with what the majority are saying, and would you prefer to have that in your text?
Yeah, so this is why Revelation. This is why Revelation is tricky, and why that question is tricky, is because realistically speaking, there is no majority text. Like, it's so well divided amongst a number of different variants in many different places that if you were to take the majority all the time, you would end up with a text that has like 55% support here, 49% support here. Like, it's just way too close. So the whole notion of a majority text in Revelation really doesn't exist. Instead,
what about a? I'll give you an example. I just saw this yesterday, and I don't know who publishes it. Maybe you own a copy of it. It's a Byzantine text. It's a translation based on the Byzantine text. Have you seen
this
that?
Adam Boyd's one?
It might be, yes.
Yeah. I talk with Adam Boyd from time to time, yeah.
Would you say, like, between the Textus Receptus and that you would lean one way or the other?
I would probably lean more toward Adam's text or the RP text, because how Revelation is typically done now is that you probably heard of the 4 text types, right? You got Western, Caesarean, Byzantine text, and Alexandrian text. Everybody's heard that before. The book of Revelation has its own set of types. So typically speaking, you're going to look for agreement between favored types when making a decision. I mean, that's super simplified, but that's generally what it looks like. And I don't have the qualifications to do that with Revelation. So I just take the work of the RP text and say, this is what I'm going with for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I share my screen for a minute?
Yep.
Maybe. Let me see if I have one that has your.
Excuse me.
I just requested there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me. I think I'm going to have it on here in a second.
That's okay.
All right. It looks kind of blurry, to be honest. Oh, wait. Now it's not. Okay.
Is this what you were talking about with the article?
We got rid of Dwayne, though. Hold on. Let me. We can't get rid of Dwayne.
There we go. I'm here.
Let me try again. Let me.
You should be able to get all 3 of us on there with the share screen.
Let me see if I can. I should. I'm not sure a quick way to do this. The one I used. Maybe. Try sharing with me again. There we go.
Yep.
All right. I think this will work. And we're all there now.
Yeah. So I think I don't know whether I can zoom in or not here. That's the problem. But Revelation 4.
I can't zoom in either. If you zoom in, it should zoom in on our end.
Yeah. Let me see.
I know it's a Apple, so it doesn't zoom.
It does. I just don't know how to.
You're still learning.
That's hilarious.
You're still learning.
Let me just read it then. So,
Control and mouse wheel up.
Sadly, I don't have the mouse. But Revelation 4:11 in the ESV says, "Worthy are you, our Lord and God."
Lord, yeah.
And then in the NKJV is, "Worthy are you, O Lord, to receive glory and honor." Is that what you were talking about with the article?
No. That's just a difference between the nominative and the vocative case. So that's not a huge. I mean, I look at that and I'm just like, okay, "Oh Lord" or "Our Lord." It really doesn't make much difference how we interpret the passage. But there is a question, and it's somewhere in Revelation 4. and it's what's called a solecism. So a solecism is basically a place where the grammar is so strange that it's never happened before. Some people might call it an error, but I object to calling a solecism an error because, technically speaking, when it comes to language, the whole point is to communicate. And so if it's not grammatically sound, but it communicates really well what you're trying to get across, it's okay, right? At least that's how I see solecisms. But there's an example of one in the critical text in Revelation 4, where the article appears before, I think it's the preposition apo, like away from or out of, or where it doesn't appear, but then the corresponding noun afterwards appears in a case that we just don't expect. So we see that oftentimes in Revelation. So the grammar in Revelation is tricky at times. And I think that also kind of helps, like also factors into this question of why is Revelation so textually full of issues. But yeah,
Well,
that's where I was going through with that.
yeah, it's also a big reason why whenever it came to the question of canon, a lot of people were unsure about the Book of Revelation.
Yeah,
Because there was multiple reasons, from its imagery to its transmission to even some of the Greek. They were like, we're not sure about this one.
Yeah, so there's a couple like really famous variants in there, like Book of Life and Tree of Life. If I'm not mistaken, the Textus Receptus has the Tree of Life, and there's no Greek manuscripts that have Tree of Life. It's all Book of Life, and the reasoning behind is in Latin. Because I tend to see that the Textus Receptus is a mashup of Latin readings and Greek readings, mostly Greek, but with some Latin smattered in there. In the Latin text, the word for tree and book is very similar, and so it would make more sense for a word to get mixed up in Latin, and so that coming over from Latin kind of makes sense of why tree was there instead of book. That's one variant. The last 6 verses of Revelation is said to be a translation from the Vulgate. I don't know how true that is. There's some people who have disputed that, and I think there's been a decent case made that perhaps that wasn't happening. Again,
Okay.
I'd have to look into that.
Yeah,
but I know it's really popular in critical text circles. Well, just generally speaking, I think it's said that they were back translated. I don't know if that's the case, and there seems to be some reasons to suggest it may not have been. Now, I'm not a Textus Receptus guy, and then another interesting variant in Revelation is the question of who is flying over the populace and sharing the gospel. Who's proclaiming the gospel?
an angel.
Is it an angel or an eagle? And that's an interesting one. I don't have the answer yet. I haven't looked at those, but
I would blame the angel.
Well, I don't know, right? Because there could be you could make a good internal case that someone saw eagle there, which looks similar in Greek to angel, and maybe just assumed that it was angel and copied it as angel, right? Because that angel makes more sense, but eagle, there could be some picture involving an eagle. So I don't know, right? This is where I have to do some digging. I haven't dove into the Revelation question yet, but I'm just aware that it's a big mass over here.
I appreciate that you answered that very honestly, the best you could, and that you are consistent, because I think what you're basically saying is, you put the most trust in the Byzantine text tradition, even if it's not in the New King James per se.
Right.
You're more of a text guy than you are a translation loyalist, if you will.
Yeah.
Even though I know you love the New King James.
That's right. I use it all the time. I read it all the time. Actually, you know what? I have switched out. I had the King James version on my nightstand. Now I have the Berean Standard Bible there. Because they're coming out with the Majority Standard Bible, and I wanted to get a feel for what the Old Testament felt like. Because I think the Old Testament in the MSB is going to be the same as the BSB.
Right.
So I went through Proverbs a couple. It wasn't bad. I was expecting it to be kind of like, but I was actually pleased. I was pleased with Proverbs. And when you start getting into the poetic stuff, it's either hit or miss.
If they come out with the New Testament, you might consider using that.
We'll see. I'll take a look at
setting.
it. Yeah. Yeah, well, we've already purchased our New King James Bibles, and I wouldn't want to put another purchase like that over them. And I mean, there's some things in the Majority Standard Bible that I have seen already that I'm not like, like for example, only begotten God, only begotten Son. I think they translated that as one and only.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can't remember exactly, but I prefer the traditional rendering because only begotten. Well, it was a title, right? And it became monogenes became a title for Christ, and I think only begotten catches that. Whereas saying something like the unique Son or the only Son or one and only, I don't think it catches that titleness very well. And John being written late, I think would probably lend to monogenes holding that idea of title. And I mean, it's in the prologue of John. I mean, contextually, it would seem to be speaking more to the title.
It can be used
yeah.
in the other way, though. That's the thing, right?
Well, yeah, that's where it gets tricky. But then
I think it's in Hebrews that it's used in the other.
And
it
refers back to Jacob and Esau.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, I did a whole video on this. I think I did 2 videos on it, but it goes back to Jacob and Esau and how Jacob, even though he wasn't the firstborn, he became the firstborn, right?
Okay.
So you're speaking not about an order of birth, but you're speaking of in a sense of entitlement. This is his entitlement, his firstbornness. It's a title, like it literally is a title when applied to him.
I know
so
firstborn, but there's also maybe it's Abraham with Isaac, where
maybe
it
it was
his
maybe
one
I'm
and
getting that
only, his
mixed up.
only begotten.
Yeah, I might be mixing it up.
Now, Marcus Moreno, I'll just read this. This sounds a little
Oh,
inside.
Mr. Moreno, how's it going?
He says, one day Dwayne will see the light and become a
Bizet prioritist.
Bizet prioritist.
Bizet
what
prioritist.
Is that? What
okay,
is
all
this?
right. So
what's he get?
So this Codex D, Codex Bizet. It's I think it's 4th or 5th century. I can't remember exactly. It's a 4th or 5th century manuscript, but it is utter junk. It is it is literally it is one of the worst manuscripts. It's got all of these like accentuated readings in it. It's just if you're making here this will be a hot take, so you can put this in there, okay? So the NIV 2011, we're going to pick on the NIV a little bit. In Mark 1:41, the text read that Jesus, well, depends on your translations. Most translations will say that Jesus was filled with compassion, then he reached out and healed them, the paralytic. But the NIV chose to go with this obscure reading in Codex Bizet that says Jesus was angered.
Yes,
Jesus was angered.
Yep.
Yeah. And so the basis for this decision was Codex Bizet. But Codex Bizet is quite literally known in text critical circles as one of the worst biblical manuscripts. It's a poor representation of the original text. It's got all these like what do we call them? Lots of added phrases. It's very eccentric. It's just not a good manuscript. So Mr. Moreno, he knows that. And he jokes. Part of me wonders if he's serious, that he's a Bizet onlyist, so he goes with that one manuscript, and all the rest of them are perversions, and Codex Bizet is it to him.
You could definitely be a maverick if you took a position like that.
Just to jump back briefly, the BSB renders it. Oh, hang on, I lost it. The one and only Son.
Yeah, one and only. Yeah, I'm not huge on that, but I won't hold a single preference of mine. I won't let that flavor how I see the rest of the New Testament. So we'll see. It'll be the first time we have a Byzantine priority or a Byzantine type text.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get John Isett and Gary Hill on the channel to talk about the MSB, because I'll definitely be getting one when they print.
Now, when you say first, referring back to that work that Boyd did.
Yes. Sorry. I have to. I mean like a committee-based translation. So that's Adam Boyd's work specifically.
Because that's a single person. Okay.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, committee translation is kind of the wrong way to look at it. From my understanding, the MSB was more like a crowdsourced effort. So they have a lot of people throwing in suggestions and things like that, and then someone's kind of like editing through all that. So I want to get them to come on and share how they're putting this together and
I
how
know.
this all worked out.
It's the most secretive process I've ever seen. Maybe they
Yeah.
had 70 people translate in separate
Separately in
rooms
separate
and come
rooms,
together, and they all had the
and then
same
they were all the
translation.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I had suggested to John a while back, years, probably 4 or 5 years now, because he was asking about what we think the base text should be, and I just said, well, just use the RP text. It's copyright free, and the scholarship in it's good, it's it's reflecting a more traditional type text. Like just go with the RP, and he did, and I was surprised. I was surprised, happily surprised. So
Good.
I'm curious to see what things look like when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Nice.
that is going to be interesting. Yeah. So right now you would say that your top translation is the New King James,
Yes.
and then you're considering the majority standard Bible. Oh, and the King James, I'm sure, would be another.
Oh yeah. It's up there. Yeah. I
Yeah.
read it regularly.
Yeah, you
But
can't beat the King James.
What's
yeah,
that?
well,
You can't beat the King James,
No, you can't.
especially for the Psalms. It's not that I refuse to read the Psalms in any other translation. I just actively choose the King James.
Okay, I have to say this. Okay, I'm not going to make you guys comment because I don't want you guys to get in trouble. But when you were talking with Jim Lindsay last week, oh, here we go. He said that the
maybe he's
MEV
watching
is
right
the
now.
yeah,
Hi,
he
Jim.
might be. He might be. Hey, Jim. He said that the MEV is the next King James version. I don't see it. Those are huge. Those are huge shoes to fill,
Yeah.
and the MEV isn't filling it.
I think it's good
I
that he has those aspirations. Otherwise,
yes,
he shouldn't bother putting it out. But yeah, I don't.
yeah.
We actually have the closest one that I can tell right now. No one's going to agree with. Well, some people will agree with me, but
Yeah.
nobody wants anything compared to the King James. I understand that the
Yeah,
King James will never be replicated. But
never.
the closest thing we have in our day with our context, at the moment at least, is the ESV. And the only reason I say that is, sorry, Nicholas, I told you
Boo,
people aren't going to agree with me.
boo, boo.
Just hear me out. Just hear me out. That's what they would have said about the King James. You're proving my point.
They
The
said the
Geneva
same about
guys
the
didn't like the
Canadian.
King James either. And that's the thing is the King James was a more broadly appealing translation. People that wanted something a little bit more, honed in on what they believed, liked the Geneva Bible. The King
Yep.
James was trying to pull groups together. So that's one thing about the ESV that it does. Another thing about the ESV, I was looking up today. What does like the Anglican Church of North America use? I just was curious about that. And sure enough, a lot of their churches use the ESV. What do a lot of Reformed people use? The ESV. What do a lot of conservative evangelicals use? The ESV. What do even some Catholics use if they want to use a more modern translation? They use the ESV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to admit, it's got the most universal appeal.
Yes. Yeah, and I think crossway marketing has a lot to do with that, right? Like they've marketed the
Listen,
ESV
Dwayne.
like
Two
There
second
is an
mark.
ESV that the Gideons
I
have.
know.
Okay.
I almost had my hands on one of those.
I was gonna
I was
say
yeah,
they
yeah.
might even pull you in if you could get a
Yeah,
Gideon ESV.
that's right.
That.
That's right. Because what we it was funny. I was at camp, so I don't usually say that I'm going away before I go away, right? Just because that's just dumb to do. But when I was at camp for 2 weeks, the pastor friend of mine there, he invited us up, and we were helping with family camp and stuff like that. But this lady comes up with and says to him, "Hey, I've got a big box of Bibles. Can you just like do something with it?" And so we went over to the truck there, and he opened it up, and it was like Gideon Bibles. And I was like, is that the ESV one? Because and I started saying, they put these verses in and blah, 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 blah. And he, of course, had no clue what I was talking about. And I was like, can I have one? Can I have one? And he's like, yeah, here. So he just hands one to me, and I take it back to my place where I was staying. And so I'm looking at it, and I was kind of disappointed because it was an NASB. Now, I think the Gideons were distributing the 95 edition. So I think it's an NASB 95. But yeah, I was a little bit bummed out that it wasn't an ESV and it wasn't like the Gideon ESV, because I really do want to take a look at
it
one of
wasn't
those. Yeah.
actually the ESV?
No, it was an NASB.
Oh, well, I
These
have
are
good
brand
news,
new out of the
Dwayne.
box.
I have extra copy I could certainly get
Oh,
in your
there you
hands
go.
of
All
the
right.
ESV Gideon
Woohoo.
Bible, so that you can start using the ESV.
There we go. I'm gonna do a video on it then. If you send it to me, I'll do a video on it.
Tony Biondi's pushing back a little bit. He says outside the USA, the ESV is not such a big deal. I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm in the US. What I will say, though, is that I know that the ESV is getting pushed in other countries more and more. Africa, for example, and like it's what you said, Dwayne, their marketing and their publishing is huge.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Give it another decade. We'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes used in more parts of the world. I think they have an anglicized version too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We got him back. I thought I had offended you about the ESV, and you're like, I've had enough of this.
No, the dog decided he wanted to go and help himself to extra.
You offended the dog. That's really what happened.
Rollo hates the ESV.
Well, the funny
thing is,
actually
KJV only.
The funny thing is, that's what I was going to say to you whenever you were first bringing this up. Is yes, the ESV was and in some instances is popular in Reformed circles, but that is slowly changing. A lot of Reformed people now are going to more the NKJV, funny enough, and it's over textual issues.
But here's the thing. I'm going to really make my case today. But I agree with you. I think there will be a lot of Reformed people that will shift to the NKJV. However, long term, I think I know Tim Nichols butted heads with me on this. I think you give it a long enough time, and if the NKJV doesn't update, it's actually going to be an issue. Not with the niche group. There's always going to be the niche group that will don't change anything. But I think one of the things that the ESV does have as an advantage, whether people like it or not, is it keeps that current scholarship. Now, here's the thing. They can't do any major changes. That would definitely. I think that the reaction you saw at the ESV 2025 was temporary. I don't think long-term people are going to abandon it. I think the ESV too, and this is the other thing. The reason that like Anglicans are using it and even some Catholics are using it is because they're willing to publish. And I mentioned that the Gideons have it with the TR text. The ESV is the one translation that will cater to almost any group. In other words, if one day there's a market for Reformed people that want something that includes the Byzantine readings, I think someday the ESV will have it. Well, and it will include the Apocrypha.
Yeah, well, there is a Catholic edition.
You guys don't care, but I'm saying those certain groups care.
There is a Catholic edition with the Apocrypha.
There is. I have one. The ESV diadem. Beautiful Bible. Beautiful.
Oh, sure.
And by the way, I'm not like a huge ESV promoter. I'm trying to be like what I think is the most universal translation today out of all the ones we have. I think the ESV is starting to take that spot. That's my opinion.
It is. I'm not even pushing back on that. I'm just saying now, because I'm in this camp, I'm seeing a lot more young men, especially.
I get that.
Not like the ESV because they take the position that the longer ending of Mark, the comma Johanneum, they believe that is scripture. So they want it in their Bible and they don't want it bracketed. So they are
over the ESV already has editions that don't do that. So if that becomes enough of, if it reaches critical mass and there's enough people that want something that puts it in the text, I could see that happening.
Well, that's like Dwayne already said, they've already done it with the Apocrypha, so they will. But I think part of the reason why they are going that direction is they are seeing that the ESV, while it's still an incredibly popular translation, it's losing its core base within the Reformed world because they are now going more NKJV.
That's interesting. I didn't know there was a shift like that.
Yeah, quite a large.
There is a shift. I would agree. It's hard to know just based on anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
How big of that shift really is. That's hard. I'm not sure what the numbers are.
I would say it's definite, but of course, YouTube's only going to serve me up the people who are interested in the Byzantine type.
Yeah.
So my results would be totally skewed. I'm no help at all with.
And it's a little bit like saying the NIV isn't as popular now. It's still the number one selling translation in America. So even if they lose part of their base, they've reached critical mass, where that's kind of my point. Even as people have left the King James, it's not going away. So that's kind of my point. I think the ESV has staying power, and and even people that don't love it, like if with what you're saying, Nicholas, that's the thing about the ESV. Even people who don't love it, it's still usually like it's a second choice. It's not offensive. There'll be people who'll be like, I love the New King James, but I can stomach the ESV. Whereas some of those people, if you tried to give them an NIV, they'd be like, no way,
Yeah.
Unless it's an 84.
It's true. Yeah.
Unless it's the 84, right? Yeah.
Well, it was the 84 that really put me on the road to the textual critical stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Because that was when I first realized that there were, missing verses in the Bible, because I started my Christian walk in an independent fundamentalist Baptist church. So they were King James Version only, but the ministry that I got saved under was actually quite a charismatic ministry. So they actually did all the work in mentoring me in my Christian walk. It was actually good. I mean, everybody poo-poos the charismatics, but they really helped me in my early walk. And then the Baptist church really gave me an appreciation for the love of the Word of God. So I had the gifts of the Spirit here and the Word of God over here, and I feel like they just melded into me, right? Which is good. But yeah, so coming up from that King James Version only church, one day a friend of mine was saying, "Hey, this Bible verse is missing in my Bible." It was NIV, and of course it skipped right over the number, right? And I was like, "Oh wow, that's interesting." And just that kind of got me moving on the text critical train. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it unnerves a lot of people the very first time they do notice something like that, because your brain kind of doesn't pick up. I can't remember where it was exactly, but I remember I held a conference one time over here. I'll not name the place because it's too close to where I live, but
That's funny.
We held it on the transmission of the New Testament, and the speaker told everyone to turn to, I can't remember now what passage it was, so I'll just say John 14, and asked someone to read out, say, verse 18 or whatever, and everyone was like, hang on a minute, there is no 18, and you could see the realization on some people's faces. They were like, how have I never noticed this before? Because you don't often read the verse numbers, you just tend to read through and go, oh. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I need to share this comment from Leslie.
All right.
I kept mentioning critical mass. I wasn't referring to the Catholics.
Nice.
Critical mass.
Nice.
But I think the ESV has reached critical mass. Different meaning of mass there.
That's funny. Yeah. That's good.
I see some translation comments here. Or sorry, like what people use. So Factless says LSB, NASB, and KJV, and KJV says top 4. Tony says NIV still has wide readership in the UK, Australia, English speaking Africa. A lot of 95 lovers. CSB.
Yep. Yeah, my brother actually said the CSB, but he still compares everything to the
yeah, I see
he
that.
compares everything else to the NKJV. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to make sure we talk a little bit about the ending of Mark.
Oh, sure.
That hits right. And here's an interesting thought that I just wanted to. It just came to my mind. I think it was earlier today that a lot of people are scared. I've noticed about missing verses,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll hear that a lot. But it's interesting to me, and you don't even have to comment on this. It's just more of a
Yeah.
comment that I thought of. But it seems like people aren't ever worried about adding verses. Like it just, I think that's fascinating to me that people tend to think it's more likely that verses are being taken out than verses are added. And I
Mm-hmm.
wonder why that is. Maybe it's because our verse numbers were put in place with the text that lines up with the Textus Receptus. And so it does visually look like you're taking verses out. Whereas if we had in our Bibles verse 16a, I think people would be alarmed by that.
Mm.
But
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting though is just to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench in here
yeah,
is the text critical methodologies that are producing our New Testaments today, like the modern
hmm
critical methods, reasoned eclecticism, CBGM, um, they end up with a shorter text. And so what happens is because the critical text is shorter than the others, right? That's one of the principles. The shorter reading is to be preferred. It's debated like that. A lot of people are debating that canon. But what you end up with is a New Testament that is relatively right. It's not crazy shorter, but significantly shorter than the Textus Receptus, and the Textus Receptus has been the standard from the time of the printing press up until late 1800s.
right.
So what you're getting is the new editions, right? The New Greek New Testaments are actually what's the term? They are. Oh, I had it in my head in just a moment. The new editions are accentuating the fact that it's shorter, and that's why people tend to. If it was longer, then we might see added verses here. But there are 16 verses that are in the King James Version that are no longer in the critical editions.
Right.
The Byzantine text keeps about 11 of those with the questions about others. So it doesn't typically go the other way around. You don't see added verses into the critical editions where they were missing from the Textus Receptus. It doesn't go that way. And this is
Yeah,
why I think we're seeing people who are more concerned with removal than with addition, because
that is part of it.
the
Yeah.
current situation is set it up that way.
Yep. Okay. Now when it comes to Mark, uh, definitely think
Yeah,
that
no question.
all the 9 through 20 should be there.
Yes.
Now
Yeah,
you did
no,
a video
no
on this
question.
recently.
I did a couple videos,
What
yeah.
did Alan Parr say that you disagreed with?
Oh,
In a
okay. So
nutshell?
the Alan Parr video. Okay, so there's two parts to that. One is I think Alan Parr is a cessationist, right? I'm a
Yes,
continuationist. So we have a little bit of a disagreement there. So his video, he framed it a little bit interesting, right? You know how like when you make a YouTube video, you got to grab some attention, and so Alan grabbed attention with the snake handlers. And then partway through, he'd like switch gears, and all of a sudden, it was about the gift of tongues. Okay, so it was kind of like a bait and switch. Okay, I felt a little bit, Alan, if you're watching
So
this,
you're
but
saying you don't do snake handling at your church?
we don't do snake. No, the only time. What? Okay, hold on. This is not entirely true. One time there was a snake in the basement, and I had to go and get it and deal with it. Okay, so I handled the snake, and
Okay.
we get snakes in our garden
Did
all
it
the
bite
time,
you,
and
and then you were like
no.
unaffected by it?
No, it didn't even bite me. Didn't even
Oh,
bite
okay.
me.
Okay.
And we get snakes in the garden all the time, picking up, showing the boys and stuff. Anyway, so but no, I don't preach that you can just go and put your hand in a snake pit. Okay, that's a
Okay.
silly interpretation to do that. Okay, just checking. You're not one of those. No. But he came up with like 5 or 6 arguments, and I spent most of the time on the first one. And his first argument about why we shouldn't use Mark 16:9 through 20 for the gift of tongues is because Mark 16:9 through 20 probably isn't part of Scripture. And he spent all of 30 seconds on that. Actually, it was probably like 2 minutes. I can't remember. But it was clearly not enough. He simplified the issue way too much and left out a whole ton and just kind of like took it as a given. And the reality is, it's not a given, and that was probably the most problematic thing. You could talk about a scholarly consensus as to whether Mark 16:9-20 is or isn't, but even then, it's not really consensus. I mean, we got Maurice Robinson, Paul Anderson, Adam Boyd. We've got David Allen Black, Abaddon Shaw. I mean, yeah, I could name you a bunch of people who think Mark 16:9-20 should be part of Scripture, right? Very smart, doctorate people. So it's not a consensus. And I think it's one thing to say, okay, I think it shouldn't be and move on, but then to present it as something that's a fact and as a consensus, I think is quite misleading.
Well, does that get into what the definition of consensus is a little bit? Because if you're talking about numbers of scholars, wouldn't the vast majority say that the shorter ending is correct?
Well, when you start talking about textual scholars, how many are there? Not many. There's not many. Okay. It was actually quite surprising. If I had to guess, there's probably somewhere around 25 to 30 text critical scholars. Like, it's just not a lot.
Yeah, and so again, you're getting into the nitty gritty here, because I wasn't even saying text critical scholars. I was just kind of saying, when people talk about this topic, they're probably overgeneralizing, but they would just say scholars.
Yeah.
And you're right to point out that not all those scholars actually are well versed, no pun intended, but they're not well versed in this particular issue.
Yeah. So it's a misnomer. So every time I see most textual critics believe blah blah blah, when most people hear that, they think of the really popular ones like James White and Dan Wallace, right? There's a couple others like Elijah Hickson, Peter Gurry, Dirk Yonkins. They did the work on the Tyndale House Greek New Testament. They're supposed to be coming out with a commentary. That'll be interesting to see. But there's a total other side to the discussion, and there are textual scholars who are on that side of the discussion. Right. And then to just kind of glean over the evidence is where it gets really problematic. Let me rephrase that. Where Alan Parr's video really missed it was how they gleaned over some of the evidence. So there was this idea of presenting it as, fact and consensus, and then there's the kind of and then kind of pushing it off to the side without actually engaging any of the scholarly material on it. We could get into all those details, but it's up to you for time.
Well, I think I would encourage people to watch Dwayne's video where he's really going through responding to Alan Parr on the long ending of Mark. And if you haven't subscribed to Dwayne's channel, go over there. He's got really a lot of great videos that he's been doing for years now on textual issues and other matters as well. But one question that I have for you, Dwayne, about this is, how do you feel about like someone like Mike Winger's take on this, which his view is it probably wasn't original, but it should be in the text. I remember him kind of coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, so I am still working out a robust theory of preservation. So what you have with an idea like that, it comes down to a question of canon. That's right. So can somebody who is not an original writer still produce canonical text? Right. When was the canon closed? Because if the canon was closed,
we know the answer to that? I'm sorry, I just feel like I should say this because I've been thinking about this too, and I'm like, don't we already know the answer? With Moses, we know that there are certain portions. You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
That Moses didn't write, but we know that generally speaking, that book is attributed to him.
Yeah, there was some editorial work done. Yeah. So I mean, possibly. Again, it's interesting. Like if you go online, you listen to all the apologists talk about canon, and this will actually probably more relate to Nicholas. they usually throw out, these are the criteria that we know that it's scripture. One is that it was done by an apostle or someone closely related to an apostle too. It was circulated in the early church. And yeah, I think there's three that are often given. I can't remember what the other two are offhand. But the one is that it was written by an apostle or an associate of an apostle. And that, that's people like Luke who weren't, apostles, but still wrote. He was associated traditionally with, Peter, I think. I can't remember who Luke was associated with.
Yeah.
But
and then it has to agree with the rest of Scripture, and it has to be widely used and supported by the church.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's something along those lines. But you start running again with someone like Mike Wingers, and he's not the only one, right? James Snap Jr. has a similar view, is that Mark didn't end up finishing it, but he hadn't published it. Publishing is an interesting phrase around first century, but he hadn't. We'll just say he hadn't sent it out, and so either Mark was killed because of persecution, or whatever else, and so one of his colleagues came and added in the end, and then circulated it. So it's not an entirely strange view that's out there, but it comes down to the question of what do we mean by canon, and with the question of the writing of Deuteronomy and Moses' death being recorded, there was definitely some editorializing.
Right.
Can we justify that in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Mark, especially given the way that it ends? If you don't have the ending, it ends really weird, right? And this is why the discussion is so crazy. You have a particle ending the whole book. Efuvunto gar, right? And if you know any Greek, gar is a post-positive, right? You don't end sentences with that. I think there's one example in Greek writings where gar is ended a sentence, but it's a very obscure, I think it's like Plato or something like that.
Yeah.
So it ends very weird. Like it wasn't. It's not an intentional ending, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's up for debate. John MacArthur preached a whole sermon about how that was the intended ending.
He thinks that is the ending. Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, I
you
would
obviously
disagree.
don't agree with that.
No.
What about the adultery passage? Because someone did want to ask about that.
Yeah,
Some translations say the woman at the well. It's actually the one I'm thinking of. I thought this was referring to that, was the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah. So that's the pericope adultery. That's right. We have to use the fancy. You're not smart unless you use the fancy Latin name. That's how it goes.
Pronounce it that.
That's brother. That's it.
But it's John 7, the end of John 7 to the beginning of John 8.
There's a couple others like John 5:4 and the Pool of Bethesda.
Yeah, that's
really
true.
popular since we're in John.
Yeah.
But I think typically, I haven't done as much of a deep dive into this as I have something like Mark 16. But I lean toward its inclusion. I think just over 70% of the Byzantine manuscripts contain the pericope adulterae.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's more to it. Like, for example, there's 7 different forms. We call them the M forms, so M1 to M7, and typically you're going to see M5, M6, and M7. They have the biggest cut of the pie, right? If it's going to be original, it's going to be one of those 3, and depending on who's doing the work, like Family 35 is another Greek New Testament. They went with M7. M5 was the Hodges Farstad majority, and M6, I think, maybe I got those mixed up, went with the RP text. So there's slightly different forms, just in which words are included and which ones are not, and that kind of thing. And then the first 4 are just, there's only a handful of manuscripts, but the bulk of it is the 3. So some will look at that and say, well, there's 7 different forms of the PA, and so it can't be original. But I'm not sure, right? I don't think we can be sure. I don't think that's a good basis to say that. When you have the bulk of the manuscripts containing this, it's got to say something. I'm not a nose counting guy, right? Byzantine priority isn't about nose counting, but there should be some weight given to a plurality like that.
Yeah.
And we know that all of the Byzantine text groupings are an independent line of manuscripts. It didn't go back to a revision. I'm going through the preface in the 1991 edition because we're getting the 2025 edition set up.
Yeah.
And Maurice Robinson's argument there is, well, these big massive manuscripts, which are independent lineage, they're not connected to each other, contain it. So that gives us a little bit of weight. Now, there's so much to be said on this. Maurice Robinson himself, he had collated every single manuscript of John with the pericope adultery. He's looked at every single one, and he's just finishing up doing some corrections, and then he's going to publish the work. So that'll be out in the scholarly world soon, hopefully soon, and you'll be able to see the figures for yourself. But I guess to come back to the question, what do I think? I think generally speaking, I think we should retain it. I don't think there's a reason to remove it. Will that change when this research comes out? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. Maurice seems to be really gung-ho with it still. So after a lifetime of work, he's still convinced. I don't think there's anything in there that's going to change my mind.
Yeah. So two of our Tonys here actually have a similar opinion to I. The fact that it is original, that it just may not belong in that exact spot in John. Because
that's what Tony Biondi says.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Both of our Tonys believe that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about its placement, right? So when, it's sometimes found at the end of John. Sometimes it's found at the end of Luke. Sometimes the beginning of John, right? And the reason for it is because of the lectionary readings. So the specific passage of the woman caught in adultery, the lection for that specific time would have been the reading for Pentecost. And so the story of the woman caught in adultery, as far as election is concerned, is kind of in the way. And so I think what happens is it's moved out of the way. And of course, nobody wants to just take it out because it's scripture. So what do you do with it? You just append it to the end of the book or the beginning of the book. And I think generally this is why I kind of lean towards its inclusion, is because we have a reason for it being in this place and that place, is because of the lectionary. It was moved out of the way for convenience sake. So it seems.
Yep.
The more I've thought about it, the more I lean toward inclusion with all of these, because even a book like Hebrews, we don't know who the author was. There's some mystery there. Although I saw Josh Barzon was making the case for Paul.
I would make the case for Paul. Yeah.
I don't agree with it. That's okay. That's my point. He doesn't name himself, but it's still scripture for the very reasons that we outlined earlier. Has all the marks of scripture, and it was accepted by the church. It seems to me that, all of these have clearly been accepted by the church. And even if there's some mystery as to how they were first introduced, there's mystery to the Old Testament. I don't understand why we accept the Old Testament. Like I said, Book of Moses, that's significant. We know that Moses is the primary author, but we still accept some additions there as being scripture. Right. And there are other Old Testament that we don't really know the origins of every part of it, every single part of the Old Testament. But clearly it was accepted by Christ.
Yeah.
And the New Testament was accepted by his church. So doesn't seem...
Before you guys move on there, you say you think Paul wrote the book of Hebrews. Physically wrote it, or was it recorded from something Paul spoke about?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Is it Stephen Boyce? Yeah, Stephen Boyce. He just recently wrote an article on First Clement. It was a paper, not an article, a paper on First Clement, and how it was viewed more as a homilaic sort of what do you call it, motif to it, like its genre was more homilaic. And so I made the observation that this could very well apply to the book of Hebrews, and so that changes, stylistically. I think as Tony Bondi is there talking about stylistically, it's very different from Paul, but that could just very well be because this is not an instructional letter. This is a preached sermon by the looks of it, right? When you go through Hebrews, it's very hortatory. It's very let us do this and let us do that, right? It's so could very well be the case. But there are some phrases and lingos and things that do match up with other places in Paul's epistles too. So
I just have a hard time believing
Yeah.
that something written by Paul wouldn't be credited to him. The early church did such a good job of saying this was this person. It just seems like if it was Paul. Plus, there are some things he says there about, and I can't remember the phrasing of it, but just the way that he heard about these things. It didn't sound as direct as Paul. Paul, when he talks, he's like, "This was by revelation. I heard this,
right.
and saw this firsthand."
That's
To me, the writer of Hebrews doesn't sound like he speaks the way, in terms of his own experiences, the way Paul speaks.
Well, you see, that's because the theory is, though. Well, sorry, I should say the theory that I trust in is there's 58 unique phrases of words in Hebrews that is found nowhere else in the New Testament other than in the book of Luke and the book of Acts. So a lot of people believe this is something that Luke wrote down, hearing the Apostle Paul speak about. So whenever Paul, because what you're thinking of is whenever Paul says, I believe it's in chapter 2, whenever he says how he heard about it, he says, "We have heard from the beginning through the apostles."
Right.
Well, that wouldn't contradict how Paul received direct revelation if Paul is speaking corporately, because he's saying, "We have heard this,
that's true.
we have known." So the opinion, and it's not a dogmatic opinion. I'm open to being wrong on it, but I genuinely think Luke wrote the book because of the phrases that are unique. Like in the New Testament, they're seen nowhere else other than the book of Luke and the book of Acts. So I'm convinced that Luke wrote the book, possibly a sermon of Paul's. Some others would point out, funny enough that you actually mentioned them, Dwayne, others would point out that maybe Clement wrote the book.
Yeah.
I always liked Apollos as being a possibility, just because he was known for being eloquent, and the book of Hebrews is very eloquent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all speculation, and that's my point. It's still scripture, even though we don't have the author named.
Yeah.
Because it's the Holy Spirit that inspired it.
That's right. That's right. Well, what's interesting here, we'll kind of change gears just a little, because this is reminding me when we talk about somebody writing in someone else's stead. We call that an amanuensis, right? So that's and a really good textual variant that is linked to this is Romans 5:1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God. Or therefore, being justified by faith, let us have peace with God. So is it a hortatory? You were the sinner before, but now be encouraged to have peace, or is it just a statement of fact? Right. That's the question. And the difference in this one is in Greek it's echomen for let us have, or we have is echomen. So it sounds exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
Echomen or echomen. And so the difference is an omicron there or an omega. Echomen, omicron, echomen, omega. So some have suggested, so if you go to the end of Romans, you find after one of the benedictions there, it says, I, Tertius, wrote this down, right? So Tertius, he's writing this down for Paul. Paul is obviously dictating this to him, and Tertius is writing it down. So when he's writing the passage in Romans 5:1, when Paul is saying echomen, maybe he wrote an omicron instead of an omega, or an omega instead of an omicron. Now, it's an interesting part of the discussion, right? This is Metzger's commentary. You can go check it out. Now, I happen to think that Tertius probably wrote it down rightly, but it's just one of those kind of neat things that you see in there. So
homophones.
what is it?
Greek homophones.
Yeah. By the way, this variant, right? It's divided evenly, even in the Byzantine tradition. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there, whether it's let us have peace or we have peace. But when just to bring peace of mind to the viewer, right? When we look at Paul's overall theology, he would not have a problem with either of these.
Right.
So,
yeah. That's what I love is the more you look at these matters, the more you realize we tend to sometimes overly focus on these minutia. And
we can do, but I think the church still, and I'm talking about the church corporately here, universally, still needs to do a better job of pointing these things out, because the first time most believers hear these things, it's coming from an unbeliever. And
that's true.
It rattles a lot of believers, because then they're like, why did my church not tell me about this? Why was I not warned about this? Why was I not?
You're right. We should actually, and that's my point. We should be able to talk about these things without feeling so defensive and like everything's going to fall apart. If there's, this issue that Dwayne was just talking about, it's not something we need to let undermine our faith, because critics are going to use these things and try to point them out to undermine us. Well, I see a lot of discussion in the comments, and I see our numbers are at the highest we've had them all afternoon. However, we've been going for over 2 hours, and I've kept my guests captive long enough here.
Actually, I literally just got a text message from my wife asking.
Yeah, your wife is like, "Are you still alive?" Yeah, and Nicholas too. He's been.
Oh, I'm fine. I just had the rest.
Yeah, I know. This is just a short stream for you, right?
That's right.
Yes,
there we go.
I normally go about
the marathoner.
I normally have a live stream on Wednesday nights. But the summer has been really busy, and it's already 6 o'clock. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one tonight, but maybe we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Just repost this to your.
That's right. I'll just do a review of myself on the.
Do a review, Just do there you
go.
Response video, to yourself. Anyway, I'm gonna let the audience go now, and thank you all. Next week. I do have a guest that I was interacting with today, so not even Nicholas knows about this yet, but I have told Nicholas about him before. He works with Wycliffe Bible translators, and so I think he's going to be on with us next week, next Wednesday. So we hope you'll all be back then, and we'll be talking more about Bible translation and other church-related topics. So thanks everybody so much for being with us and for the interaction, and of course thanks to our guest Pastor Dwayne for all his insight today.
All right.